Okay. Thank you everyone for joining. So Īśopaniṣad is a very special book because Īśopaniṣad is an Upanishad, as you can read it when you break down the words. But if you just break down the words, you will see there are two, it's comprised of two words, Isha and Upanishad. So it's an Upanishad which is explaining about the original controller or the Isha. There are so many Upanishads. There are so many Upanishads, but Prabhupada actually chose to speak about or actually write about Īśopaniṣad. Now, Prabhupada did not directly write Īśopaniṣad as a book. So if you search on vedabase.io Īśopaniṣad, you will not find Īśopaniṣad as a book there. But Prabhupada, in his Back to Godhead magazine, he basically wrote all of this content of Īśopaniṣad. And that became the book that we have right now in ISKCON. It's basically Back to Godhead magazine. And Prabhupada made this as one of the 4 books that we must study as Vaishnavas. And this forms the foundation. It's not yes, Sachikamanama Prabhu, you raised your hand.
Yes, thanks, Prabhu. I just because I also thought there was something at Conway Hall. Did Prabhupada give a series of lectures, or is that the same thing you're referring to?
No, in London, Prabhupada gave a series of lectures on Īśopaniṣad. You're right. Thank you for bringing that up. So that became part of Back to Godhead magazine, and from that also came this book. So in essence, Prabhupada wanted some foundational knowledge to exist in his disciples and the followers of ISKCON. And the foundational knowledge was comprised of these 4 books, Īśopaniṣad, Bhagavad Gita, first and foremost those 2, followed by Nectar of Instructions and Nectar of Devotion. Now, if you go back to understand Īśopaniṣad properly, we will have to just go through some systems of philosophy that we have. Basically in Vedic system, we have 6 systems of philosophy. One is Nyaya, another one is Vaisheshika, Sankhya, which is by Kapil Muni, which comes in Srimad Bhagavatam. Then there is Yoga Sutras by Patanjali. Now, Yoga Sutras by Patanjali is very famous, and it's an amazing book because the conclusion is amazing. The knowledge is judged by what the conclusion is. And Yoga Sutras by Patanjali, you can read what the conclusion of Yoga Sutras are. And then there is Purva Mimamsa by Gemini. And then there is Uttar Mimamsa, which is more about Brahman realization. It says by Visa, but actually it's by Vyasadev. It's not by Visa and MasterCard. My apologies. So these are 6 systems of philosophy. Now, Nyaya, the word Nyaya has got multiple meanings. The 2 commonly known meanings of Nyaya is, one is Nyaya means the law language. It relates to Nyaya Paddhiti, or the ways of judgment, how the judges will deliver justice. That's justice means Nyaya. But there is another understanding and meaning of Nyaya, which is basically context. Is, what's the context of the principles that we are studying? So that is also one of the meaning of Nyaya. And when we are referring to Nyaya here, it can refer to logic and it can refer to context. So these are basically 6 systems of philosophy we have. And so we need to understand, where does Īśopaniṣad sit within these 6 systems of philosophy. Now, all of these 6 systems of philosophy, what they do is they read the Vedas. So there are many Upanishads, and they derive their own conclusions from the Vedas. And these are the 6 different lines of thought or schools of thought within let me go to the next slide, within the Astika or believer section. So if you go different schools of thought, there are basically classified as Astika and Nastika, believers and non-believers. believers in the existence of the Supreme and non-believers in the existence of the Supreme. So those who are believers in the existence of Supreme, they have got these 6 schools of thought, which was mentioned in previous slide, which is Sankhya, Vaisheshika, Yoga, Nyaya, Purva Mimamsa, Uttar Mimamsa. So these are all, they are all reading the Vedic scriptures, but they're drawing their own specific conclusions. So the thing is, if someone reads Vedas, then there is a high chance that they will derive their conclusion, which will fall in one of these 6. So Vyasadeva, what he did, he wrote Vedanta Sutra. Veda Anta. Anta means end, and Veda means the Vedas. So he wrote a book which is Veda Anta, which means the end of the Vedas, which means after you have read all of the Vedas, then at the end comes Veda Anta. So Veda Anta means the end of the Vedas, and Sutras means the formulas. So basically, there are these 6 levels of philosophies, but at the end of them comes Veda Anta. So Vyasadeva wrote Vedanta philosophy, Vedanta Sutra, and now that is basically culmination of all schools of thoughts, essentially in the Astika line or believers line. So if there are different lineages, like we always speak about 4 disciplic successions or 4 sampradayas, then in those 4 sampradayas, there is Brahma Sampradaya, there is Lakshmi Sampradaya, which is Sri Sampradaya, then there is a Sampradaya from 4 Kumaras, which is Nimbark Sampradaya, and then there is one Sampradaya from Lord Shiva, which is Rudra Sampradaya. So if you study these 4 Sampradayas, they have to have a commentary on Vedanta, because Vedanta, which is at the end of the Vedas, what remains is what is to be explained and understood. So if there is to be an authentic line of school of giving knowledge, they must have a commentary on Vedanta or Vedanta Sutras. So all 4, and so when we are on Brahma Sampradaya, Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. So when we wanted to establish our line, that we are an independent school of thought, we also had to have a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. But the thing is, Vyasadeva, who is the author of the Vedanta Sutra, after writing Vedanta Sutra, was not happy. He was dissatisfied. And he tells this himself. And then he consulted his spiritual master, Narad Muni. And then he wrote Srimad Bhagavatam. So in essence, Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya will take Vedanta Sutra, and then the further exposition or explanation of Vedanta Sutra, because Vedanta Sutras are, Sutra means formulae. Formulae is concise. Take an example, E equal to MC square. That's an formula which Einstein gave. Just to write those 3 words with an equality, there was tremendous amounts of research which had gone in. And that 3-4 words, alphabets, letters, they have a deep import and deep meaning. So similarly, Vedanta Sutra is very few formulas or aphorisms which have extremely deep meaning, philosophical meaning, and it may need like years and years and sometimes even lifetime to understand the depth of those meanings. So Srimad Bhagavatam is an explanation or actually of the or further elucidation of Vedanta Sutra. And if you read Vedanta Sutras, again, there is no guarantee that you will like the form of the Lord, because it caters to both the Advaita school, which is, that there is only one God and there is no duality. So there is, only consciousness and there is no form. And then there is Dvaita school, which means nothing can be one. There is always God, the Supreme, and then there is like a devotee who then has a relationship with the Supreme, and there is Mother Nature, and then there is Supreme. So there is distinction between nature and the Supreme, there is distinction between the soul and the Supreme, and there is distinction between the nature and the Supreme. So everything is 2. So that's the Dvaita school. And so beyond the Dvaita and Advaita comes our school, in the Dvaita line, but actually Achintya Bheda Ved, which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave this conception, it reconciles between Advaita and Dvaita, because it explains that Advaita is not really false. At the same time, it is not a complete truth. And Dvaita is complete truth. At the same time, it supports Advaita principles as well. So that's where Achintya Bheda Ved Tattva comes. And then there is Nastika school, which is Buddhism, Jainism, which are basically non-believers in God. And then there is Charvak, Charvak Muni. He also gave a philosophy that eat as much ghee as you like, beg, borrow, steal, and all those things. So that is the Nastika school. You only have one life, everything, there is a beginning and then there is a doomsday. So here, Īśopaniṣad, it comes under the Vedic literature set, which is the first 6 principles before Vedanta. So it comes before Vedanta. So it comes under the Vedic umbrella of books. So, this, if any knowledge is to be considered, any line of knowledge has to be considered authentic, then it has to have books or expositions on these 3 areas. One of the, and these 3 areas is called Prasthana Trayam. Trayam means 3. So Prasthana Trayam, it should have, yes, Prachur Prabhu.
Prabhu, which slide are you showing? Because I am seeing 1 and 2. I don't know what others are seeing, or what are you showing?
Same, Prabhu.
So, sorry, what are you saying, Prachur Prabhu?
So in the presentation, we are seeing the slide 1 and 2.
Okay, 1 second.
Yeah, we
What
can
do you
see a preview of the second slide. Yeah.
But I think you are on a different slide. I feel so.
Are you seeing the diagram, the graphs now?
No.
No. Okay, that's interesting. What do you see now?
We see 1 and 2, the Īśopaniṣad introduction slide, and the second slide, six systems of philosophy.
Okay, and after that, 1 second. There is 2 screens, and now what
It
do you
says
see?
current slide and next slide.
Okay, so in current slide, do you see the schools of thought?
No,
Prabhu.
see the title page, Introduction, Īśopaniṣad.
Okay, there is something wrong. But let me just reshare the whole thing again. Let me share my desktop so you can see everything, hopefully. Okay, do you see my desktop?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, let me stop sharing again. Let me share the right desktop. I think I should share the wrong desktop. Desktop 2. Share. Okay, I hope you see my desktop 2 now. So now what do you see? Do you see the slides?
Yes, Prabhu. The diagram.
The diagram. Thank you so much, Prachur Prabhu, for interrupting. Lisa Mataji also had your hand raised.
So it was for the same reason, Prabhu, about the slides. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so sorry, my sincere apologies. So I think we'll take you quickly again through the 6 systems of philosophy. We have these 6 systems of philosophy, which you have seen. And then there are these schools of thought, which is Astika, which is believers, and then there is non-believers. So believers or Astika, you have this Sankhya, Vaisheshika, and all those 6 philosophies. And then beyond those 6 lines of thought, which are based on the Vedic literatures, then you have Vedanta, which is Anta of the Vedas, or sutras which were written by Vyasadeva. And even after reading Vyasadev's Vedanta Sutra, it encompasses both Advaita and Dvaita. So all 4 schools of teachings, we have they have to propound on Vedanta Sutra. Yes, Sachikamani, my Prabhu.
I'm just wondering, please forgive my ignorance, but the Mayavadi philosophy, Prabhupada sometimes would compare Buddhism and Mayavadi. Does that fall under the Nastika?
Yes, so if you take Nastika, which is Buddhism and Jainism, and then you take Advaitantists, which is Vedantists under Vedantic philosophy principles, but they are still believers in no form of the Lord, pure consciousness. So non-believers are different, Buddhism and Jainism, but even within the 6 philosophical lines based on the Vedic literatures, which is Vedanta, you have Advaita. And Advaita is basically the one under which most of the attacks of Prabhupada has been. So Prabhupada attacked Advaita and Buddhism and Jainism, because Advaita is also basically formlessness, which is Brahman realization. And Dvaita means, no, there cannot be just formlessness. Formlessness or Brahman must have a source. And that is Dvaita. So, Shankaracharya, he was Advaita school, basically. And, but these Shankaracharya and, yes, Purna Kishore Prabhu, or, yes, Prabhu.
I guess, sorry, I've got a different point, so I just wait for you to finish. Sorry.
Okay. So Advaita school is consisting of Brahmavadis, which is one who believes in light. They are not necessarily, they come under the umbrella of the Mayavadis, which Prabhupada was explaining Mayavad, but Mayavad is different areas. So Brahmavadis is a category of Mayavad, which is a softer type of Mayavad, which can be changed into devotees, like 4 Kumaras. They were non-offensive. So those Brahmavadis who are non-offensive, they can become devotees of the Lord and start to believe in the form of. But then there are Nir-Akaravadis, which means that there can be no akar or no shape or no form of God. So akar means shape. So Nirakarvadis are ones which are basically hardcore Mayavadis, which basically say, no, Lord doesn't have form or can't have shape. They basically impose no shape on God or no form of God. And when there is no shape, no form, then there is no reciprocation. Then there cannot be proper bhakti done, because there is no relishing of the. So there is Brahmavadis, there is Nirakaravadis. And then there are these Shunyavadis, which is Buddhists, that there is no God. There is nothing. Everything is like material energy. So Nirvishesha, Shunyavadi, then Paschatya Desha Tarine. So Nirvishesha means that the Supreme Lord doesn't. So there is Brahmavadi, which means Lord is as light. Then there is Nirakarvadis, that there is no shape or form of the Lord. Then there is Nirvisheshavadis, which means the Lord doesn't have any qualities. Like he is Nirguna. Nirguna word is used both by Mayavadis and by devotees. When Mayavadis use the word Nirguna, then Mayavadis mean that actually God has no qualities. Like literally he doesn't have any quality. Like God cannot look black, or he cannot love someone, or like absolutely no qualities. But when we devotees refer Nirguna, we says that God is beyond 3 modes. Guna means modes for us. So God is beyond 3 modes. Yes, Sachikumar Nimai Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, so just for my own clarification, I'm just thinking, we've put here believers and non-believers, and sometimes Prabhupada will talk about Lord Buddha because he rejected the Vedas, and then therefore he was considered Astika. So is it that the Mayavadis, they're believers in the sense that they are taking authority from the Vedas? They're not rejecting the Vedas, and they're trying to justify their philosophy based on the Vedic literature.
That's it.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Yes, Purna Kishore Prabhu.
Sorry, just similar sort of point. I mean, I understood Vedanta to mean, like in 15.15 Bhagavad Gita, to mean the purpose of Vedas. So Krishna doesn't, I think there's in Bhagavad Gita, there's like you get from the impersonal Brahman to the Paramatma to the direct relationship to Krishna. So it's not like it's not false in itself, but it's not the topmost level of the end purpose of the Vedas. That's the way I understood it.
Yes, in a sense you are right, because Vedas are progressive in nature. So as you start going through the Vedas, they will take you through, and we are going to come into that portion in a bit. but it's progressive in nature. But the thing is that each seeker will try to take the portion that they have sought from the Vedas, and they might project that as the ultimate. It's dependent on the seeker. And so, therefore, to quell all the problems, Vyas, they had to come with Veda Anta, or end of the Vedas, or some formulas which are like the ultimate aphorisms that are summarize the whole of Vedas. And and then Vedanta Sutra, therefore everyone has to have commentary on Vedanta Sutra. And then we'll just get into a little bit more details now in a moment, where you will understand the importance of Īśopaniṣad, why Prabhupada actually gave this book. Just bear with me for a few more minutes.
Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. So now what happens is, so now I was discussing about Prasthanatrayam, or, if you understood the previous diagram, you have to understand that any authentic school of thought, the 4 disciplic lines of thought we have, each of them have got many subdivisions now. The Acharya had a son, and he didn't wanted to give the baton in the hands of a qualified person, but only wanted to give the baton of the next generation to the son. So they possibly kept a line of thought, which is Goswami's line of thought sometimes, corrupted Goswamis. But sometimes, Acharyas found a qualified candidate and passed on the baton to them. So now we have, and sometimes there are multiple qualified candidates. So, there is a division of the branch, but the original branch, the founder of the branch, that remains the same. Just for like us, we have Brahma Sampradaya, from that Madhva, and then we are specifically Gaudiyas. So now, each of these sub branches or tributaries, if they have to establish themselves as authentic, and they have to say that, yes, we are the original source, and we are connected to the original source, and we are authentic, and the knowledge that is going through our tributary will make you perfect, then they have to do 3 things. They have to give commentaries on something called Prasthanatrayam. Prasthanatrayam was first coined by Shankaracharya, and it basically means 3 things, which is Shruti, Smriti, and Nyaya. So if any authentic disciplic line of Hinduism wants to establish itself, then it must provide commentaries on these 3 things: Shruti, Smriti, and Nyaya. Now, Bhakti Vigyan Goswami Maharaj yesterday was explaining in one of his sessions that, even though these 3 things, no one, so there are many disciplic successions which came after Shankaracharya, and none of them challenged this Prasthanatrayam. They all agreed and accepted with Prasthanatrayam. So this forms the basis, that yes, we agree that the commentary should exist on these 3, but not all of the 3 remaining Sampradayas, Nimbark Sampradaya and Shri Sampradaya, and Madhva Sampradaya, they didn't comment on every single of Shruti and Smriti and Nyaya. They sometimes omitted, like for example, Smriti sometimes, or sometimes they didn't comment on Nyaya. Yet they accept the 3 levels, and they want to expose or do expositions on these 3 levels. So in this 3 hierarchy, which is accepted 3 levels of hierarchy, Īśopaniṣad comes under Shruti because it's one of the Upanishads. Samhitas are basically, steps or songs or process of following certain Vedic rituals like that. Aranyakas are similar, and Upanishads, they are more towards philosophy. Like if you take most of the Upanishads, they are impersonal in nature, because they are just trying to tell you about there exists something higher, there exists something like a god, there exists something deeper. There, life is not just meant for sense gratification. Life is a little bit deeper. So Upanishads are that, and most of the Upanishads are impersonal in nature, and they are called, and Shruti means that which has been directly heard. Shruti means that which has been directly heard from the Supreme. So when Brahma meditated, Supreme Lord spoke into his heart. So it was directly heard. So Shrutis have been directly passed as it is by the hearing process. And that's what Shruti means. So Upanishads and Vedas, they come under Shrutis. Then comes Smritis, and Smritis is something which is remembrance. So, some saintly people, some extremely purified souls, they are remembering the great histories. And those histories, they are actually following the principles of the same Shrutis. So there is a principle, and then there is example or situation based on the same principle. So then you compile all such examples, and those examples will glorify, solidify your understanding of the principles. So Smritis, they contain principles, but they are explained very nicely with the help of examples and processes. Yes, Purnakeshwar Prabhu.
I read somewhere, I might be wrong about this, that originally there was one Veda that was split into four, Gayura Veda, and then
Yes.
that might be why we get different weird manifestations of religion around the world, because then moved around the world. That's right, is it? Yeah.
You are right, and because you have mentioned it, let me quote you the shloka and place where this evidence comes from. The shloka goes, Eka eva paraveda pranava sarva vanamayaha devo narayano na anya eka agnir eva cha. So in the Satyuga, there was only Eka eva paraveda. There was only Eka Veda in Satyuga. And there was only worship of Lord Narayan. There was no other worship. No confusion in Satyuga. Eka eva paravedo, Eka eva paravedo, pranava sarva vanamayaha. And people only chanted, the only mantra was Om. Pranava means Om. Pranava sarva vanamayaha. Devo Narayano na anya. That if people wanted to worship, they only worship Narayan, na anya, no one else. So, and then there was, when people used to do fire sacrifice, there was only one type of fire sacrifice. There was not many. There are many types of fire sacrifices, but there was only one type of fire sacrifice. So this is mentioned in the pastime of in the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So yes, you are right. There was only one Veda, but then as the ages progressed, they had to be written down. But otherwise, it was coming through Shruti and through Smriti. Smriti is the people. Smriti came when Satyuga passed, and as the ages were progressing, so they were written down. Smritis were also chanted previously like Shrutis, but then in Kali Yuga, just before Kali Yuga, it got written down. And lastly, the Nyaya, which means the context and the logic. It's actually Vedanta Sutra, which is the Vedanta Sutra, which has been Smriti is Puranas, Itihasas, and Pancharatras. Puranas is Srimad Bhagavatam is one of the Puranas, and it explains all the principles, but it explains with perfect examples, by which you can completely understand the principle. Itihasas are like Mahabharata and Ramayana. They are Itihasas because they have been written down. They are the real fact and real histories. So Shruti is one of the Īśopaniṣad is one of the Upanishads, generally at the level of Brahman, and explains and they are part of the original Vedas. And so for us to be authentic, for our students to be authentic, they must study Shruti. And so how do we do this three types of reading, which is Prasthanatrayam? In our reading for Prasthanatrayam, Prabhupada put importance on Shruti, which is for us Īśopaniṣad, which will take us to understanding that yes, there is something higher, there is something deeper. And then Smriti, which is Bhagavad Gita. Smriti means the remembrance. The Bhagavad Gita was spoken on the battlefield, but then it was remembered because it was seen by Vyasadev and then written down. So, and it's part of Mahabharata, which is also an Itihasa. So Bhagavad Gita is very special because it falls under both categories of Shruti and Smriti. So it's called Gita Upanishads. Upanishads are under Shruti. So Bhagavad Gita comes under Shruti because it was also heard directly by the Lord, because Shrutis are ones which are directly spoken or heard from the Lord. And then it's also Smriti because it was written down as remembered as it is by Krishna Dvaipini Vyasa, with the help of Ganesha during Mahabharata, when they were writing Mahabharata. And then Srimad Bhagavatam is Nyaya, a context and the logic of the principles. So that's why we have to read these three books, and they will form the foundation of our understanding of our philosophical system. You all can see the current slide, right? Position of Īśopaniṣad.
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Then hierarchy of progression in Srila Prabhupada's books is like Bhagavad Gita and Īśopaniṣad. They are the Vedic books. Like they are coming directly. Prabhupada didn't write by him the shlokas of Īśopaniṣad, Bhagavad Gita, or even Srimad Bhagavatam. So these are Vedic books. They are Upanishads. So if we have to have a conversation with, say, someone who only believes in so-called Vedas, now Srimad Bhagavatam is also Veda, but some of the schools of thought, they do not take Itihasas and Puranas and Pancharatras as importance of primary importance. They only give importance to Yajur Veda, Atharva Veda, and Upanishads. The 4 Vedas and the Upanishads. So we can still have conversation with them based on Īśopaniṣad and also Bhagavad Gita, because Bhagavad Gita is also Upanishad. They may say that it is a Smriti, that it is someone who remembered and then wrote, but we can also say that no, Bhagavad Gita was directly spoken by the Lord. So it is called Gita Upanishad, and therefore we can have conversation with people who are so-called Vedantists based purely on these 2 books, if we understand them thoroughly. So Bhagavad Gita, Īśopaniṣad, they're Vedic, and then Srimad Bhagavatam, it explains Vaishnav Siddhantas. And then higher than that is Gaudiya Vaishnav Siddhanta, which is explained in CC and Nectar of Devotion. So here right now we are at the lower rung of with Īśopaniṣad, we are at the lower rung of the triangle.
What does Siddhanta mean? What does that mean?
Siddhanta means principles.
Okay.
Siddhanta means principles. Vaishnav principles and Gaudiya Vaishnav principles. And then there is something called sadhya and sadhana. Sadhya means one who we are aiming at, and sadhana is what are we using to aim at that thing. So our sadhya is Krishna. We are aiming at Krishna. We want to achieve Krishna. And our sadhana is the process of achieving Krishna, or the instruments that we are using to achieve Krishna. So sadhya or Krishna is established through Īśopaniṣad and Bhagavad Gita, that the ultimate person or your aim should be the ultimate person, and ultimate person is Krishna. So Īśopaniṣad is more at the level of Brahman, which means not impersonal, little bit impersonal. And Bhagavad Gita is directly more personal. Yes, Sachikumar, my Prabhu.
I'm just wondering, Prabhu, the other, what is this? Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. Does this satya correlate to Prayojana, like the goal, or?
Sadhya, yes. Yes, sadhya is basically the goal, which is prayojan. That actually sadhya or prayojan should be devotional service of the Supreme Lord. So sadhya is basically your end goal, but end goal is also devotional service to the Supreme. So Krishna we want to achieve, but we want to not merge in Krishna, or not just, like in Shanta Bhav. We want to be active. We want to be, so that is also end goal. It's devotional service, established devotional service. So in this case, Sambandha, can you repeat the 3 things?
Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana, I think.
So Sambandha is information or knowledge. Abhideya is basically the process of doing. And Prayojana is being established in that process and relishing. So Sadhya and Sadhana. Sadhana is the process, which is, understanding nectar of devotion and following nectar of devotion, nectar of instruction. That is definitely sadhana, which is prayojan. And sadhya, which is goal, is definitely, but here it comes, it's more about sambandha in this case, because it's establishing, it's giving you knowledge of that ultimate goal. So therefore, it is more like sambandha, then abhideya, and then prayojan. Abhideya is your basically process of how to achieve the end goal, and prayojan is achieving the pure goal and relishing the purest. So here sadhana is in abhideya. I think sadhya is in sambandha. So you're establishing sambandha. You're just getting information and knowing what is the ultimate. First from the impersonal level through Īśopaniṣad, and then through personal level through Bhagavad Gita. Then you do the sadhana, which is abhideya, which means through nectar of devotion and nectar of instructions, you get instructions on how to actually perform devotional service. And then prayojan is basically your ultimate devotional service to the Supreme Lord and relishing that devotional service, which means reciprocation and everything. Okay, so sadhya and sadhya. So here, this falls under sadhya. Īśopaniṣad falls under sadhya. And now we begin with introduction. So you now understand the position of Īśopaniṣad, where it is in the levels of books, in levels of hierarchy, where Prabhupada wanted us to go in this knowledge and understanding. And now we actually begin introduction with Īśopaniṣad. And Īśopaniṣad begins, there are in many paragraphs, Īśopaniṣad is discussing about, different areas, but these are the four, these are the 5-6 key areas where it is discussing. It's first discussing about 4 defects of human existence. And because there are 4 defects of human existence, therefore we need Vedas. Does anyone know what are the 4 defects?
Right. On the screen.
That
Yeah,
was
mistake, confusion, cheating, and I've forgotten this one. What's it?
Make mistakes.
mistakes, cheating. Yes, Sachikumar Prabhu.
Cheating, illusioned, make
Illusion,
mistakes, and imperfect senses.
imperfect senses. Yes, those are the 4. And they have a sequence, right? Anyone remembers the sequence?
Michi.
Yeah,
Mm,
Michi. So what's the sequence?
Mistakes.
No.
I can't
Perfect
remember.
senses. Does it start with imperfect senses?
Yes, starts with imperfect senses. Well done. And then
Illusion.
wonderful. Yes. And then mistakes. And then to cover our mistakes, we do
Cheating.
and we do cheating. Yes. So we have got very limited senses. And I think I can go in depth, but you are all very learned already, so I don't want to get much into details of this area. I think limited senses, we can't perceive ultrasonic sounds. Bats can perceive ultrasonic sounds. If I have eaten like a very sugary gulab jamun, and if you give me a very mild sweet, I can't even taste the mild sweet. There is no more sweetness left in this mild sweet anymore. So my senses are completely relative and they are super limited. We can't work 24 hours a day because our senses go dull. They have limitations. In the night we can't perceive things as they are. So because we have limited senses, therefore sometimes we are under illusion. And because actually not sometimes, we are always in illusion because of the limited senses. We can't perceive, or we perceive something as completely different. And because of this, we end up making mistakes. And to cover our mistakes, we do cheating. Now, these are 4 classical defects of human existence. And because of this problem, because of these 4 mistakes, we can't actually understand something which is beyond these 4 areas, something that is, gained using these senses. Yes, Prachur Prabhu.
Prabhu, I just wanted to ask, where does this order comes from? In CC, it isn't mentioned this way.
Yes,
And
in Srimad Bhagavatam in purports, Prabhupada mentions, I think, in the, I don't remember, but it's in early cantos. I think it's first canto or second canto. Then these defects are further detailed in Vedas, Upanishads, essentially. So they must be coming from Upanishads. I think first.
no, so the verse, this verse is there in CC telling the 4 points, but the order is where I'm like, I haven't found the context in purpose.
I think the order is in Upanishads. because I also in CC have never read this order, but this order was heard first time from Radhesham Prabhu, I think. And when I read Srimad Bhagavatam, the beginning cantos, there we had this four senses first time defined. And but again, I didn't find complete order there, but I could find the linkages while reading the purports. But no one so explicitly explained to me as much as I heard the lecture of Radhesham Prabhu, which then it became very solidified. But then the same problem is, I mentioned Prasthanatrayam. Just before here, I mentioned Prasthanatrayam. Now, Prasthanatrayam, before you can actually do this Shruti Smriti and Nyaya, commentary on Shruti Smriti and Nyaya, in Upanishads, time and again, these concepts of mistake, illusion, cheating, and imperfect senses are mentioned, because to be able to, unless all these three are present, and that, one person, if that person does it, it has to be reviewed and re-reviewed, and, by students and disciples, or if disciples work, then the guru reviews it again, because they all work under these three problems. Sorry, someone's at my door. I might have to just go for a brief moment. Just hold on. Hello? Class ke beech mein.
Mm.
My apologies. Yeah, so Prabhu, in short, I don't know the exact source, but I know in Upanishads this has to be mentioned in details.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Shruti Smriti, Sadhya Sadhana, defects. Okay, so this is how the introduction begins. That because we have defects, therefore we cannot understand something which is perfect and which is complete, because you can't understand perfect and complete with imperfect and incompleteness. It's not possible to understand completeness and perfection with defects and incompleteness. So therefore it's difficult to actually understand Vedas, because Vedas are dealing. Now, when we speak of the word Veda, the literal meaning of the word Vedas is all knowledge. That all kinds of, the word Veda means knowledge. So you can use word Veda as all knowledge. But then there is, many you can also use Vedas to refer like the Vedic literatures. There are Vedic literatures in the mode of ignorance. There are Vedic literatures in passion. And then there is also Vedic literatures in goodness. So there is Devi Puran, Shiv Puran, Ganesh Puran. Each of the Puranas, each of the Vedic literatures that you will read, and there are so many of them. And that Mughals, they burnt all the Vedic literatures. There were a huge number of Vedic literatures, and it takes long time to actually read them. But when Mughals invaded India, they basically for months and months, they destroyed all the books, destroyed all the Vedic literatures. So now the problem is that these Vedic literatures, one, they were too many in numbers, and each Vedic literature that you will read will make you believe that the focus of that Vedic literature is the ultimate. Like if you read Ganesh Puran, then you will understand that Ganesha is the supreme lord. If you read Devi Puran, then you will understand that goddess Durga is the supreme. If you read Shiv Puran, then you will understand that Shivji is the supreme. So there is a purpose and an intent behind creation of those Vedic literatures, is to attract those specific people in those specific modes to progress in those modes further higher. So there are these average Vedic literatures, but then there is this final list of Vedic literatures, which is the four Vedas we have, which was originally only one Veda, but then divided into four Vedas. So Vedic knowledge, now the thing, because we have these 4 defects, therefore, we try to understand the whole world by what we can see and what we can touch and what we can feel. This is the most recent modern science. Now the way of acquiring knowledge is pratyaksha and anuman. Pratyaksha means that you are seeing it physically and therefore you believe it. They call seeing is believing. Show me, tell me. People do these sessions, in their projects. Show me, tell me, whatever you have done, show me now and tell me about it. And while I'm seeing it and while I'm hearing, I'll believe you. So seeing is believing is what they say. So this is called pratyaksha. And then anuman is basically deduction. They are trying to, using reduction techniques, they're trying to deduce that what it could be like. And both of these, they are not necessarily true for Vedic knowledge, because sometimes the Vedic knowledge you can deduce. If you are reading some Vedic knowledge, you will see that, okay, modern scientists have deduced something from Vedic knowledge. And sometimes there are mathematical formulas mentioned in Vedic knowledge, like Pythagoras theorem, integration, derivatives, a lot of stuff, which is pratyaksha, which is directly, you can see it. Okay, this is mentioned in 5,000, 7,000, 8,000, 10,000-year-old Vedas. And this is exactly what these guys now in the 19th and 20th century have given to us. This is directly as it is, and this is pratyaksha. So there is portion of Vedic knowledge which doesn't agree all the time with direct seeing is believing, and neither does it always match with anuman or something that you can deduce, but sometimes it does. Like Pythagoras theorem matches in the old books and it matches in the New Testament. Old Testament, New Testament, exactly the same. Meaning, I was referring to Vedas, not the Old Testament of the Bible and the New Testament. So old books being Vedas, you will see is exactly the same 19th century speed of light. What 8,000 years ago it was mentioned. Exactly, almost to the, I think to 3 or 4 decimal places, it's almost exactly the same. So the modern scientists are amazed and shocked that, how these people already knew it. And those people who want to understand Vedas, Upanishads, and they are also very attracted by this kind of, mathematical expositions and depth of the Vedas and the knowledge of aeroplanes and the knowledge of military science. So much knowledge is there and they are enamored by that. But Vedas are not just that. That's the important takeaway. Is yes, sometimes Vedas will match and sometimes they will not match. And this is the general progression of the Vedas, which, Prabhu was mentioning a few minutes before, that the most voluminous sections of the Vedas, they are actually dealing with dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. They are dealing with karma kanda. Now the problem, and this I heard from His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj many, many years ago, and it was so convincing. But he explained in great depths. Unfortunately, I can't go to his purity levels. I can't explain in that depth. But basically, he was explaining that, a living entity starts doing this karma, starts acting and because they actually want something to enjoy in the material world. And because they want to enjoy in this material world, they will need finance or they will need resources to enjoy. So they will start to exploit material nature to get resources so that they can fulfill their karma or their desires. And after fulfilling all their desires, they will think that, okay, it's so tiresome, so much activity. To set up a bookstall, I have to, wake up and then make sure the tables are there. The 4 legs of the tables are existing. 3 legs should not be, taken away by Kali and only 1 leg left. So table has to be there, the books have to be there, and the tablecloth has to be there. Sometimes you want incense also there, prasadam has to be there. What if I could just go to one place and just take the whole kit and just press a button and the whole kit is there, like bang. And so after doing all this hassle of assembling books, you may want to be free from this hassle of assembling tables and carrying books and everything. And so you are imagining it's so nice it would have been if I could have just been, completely not have to do these activities. and just be always relaxed, and world will go on perfectly by its own, and I don't have to intervene with it, and I can just be with my beads in one place in Vrindavan and just chant my rounds there all day and all night, eat some prasadam and just be good enough. Everyone goes to this frustration of life because of ups and downs of lives. So moksha is that kind of stage where you want to be free from all of these activities. So, and in spite of getting the liberation, you then become bored. When you go in Vrindavan or you go and sit yourself, you become bored because there is no activity. So it's like it's like a dangerous circle where you wanted to be free from activity so that you could be relieved. After the relieval stage has been achieved, then you feel bored and you want to do activity. It's like people who are working really hard to make money, and then they have so much money, and then they think, oh, I'm just getting bored. Let me just go back and do my activities. A lot of people, when they retire, they continue to do work, like a huge number of people, because they get bored at home. So they just go back to the old ways of life. That's what gave them joy. So initially what was pain was for them now subsistence. They to keep the body fit. So this is what happens with moksha. So a person who is deeply philosophical, they are thinking, okay, I went through all this dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, cycle and cycle again, cycle and cycle again. This is not ending. After many lifetimes, then they think there is a need for something deeper and higher. So they feel the need for philosophy, feel the need for knowledge. And this is where they come out of the level of karma and they go to the level of jnana. And this is all in till this level, they are still studying Vedas. All the Upanishads, Samhitas, Aranyakas, and they are fulfilling their desires, because Samhitas, Aranyakas, and Upanishads, they are telling you how to worship moon god, how to worship this god to get your specific desires fulfilled, to have a strong child, to have a wealth, or so they are telling you all of these things. And if you follow them, then you will, at one point, you will become tired. And that point in time, you want to go to higher level of Upanishads, which will tell you about Brahman. And in Brahman platform, you are trying to now understand that no, there is someone higher and something which is greater, and therefore I need to now start focusing on something higher and greater than just my material needs of this bhoga, tyaga, and the cycle. So at that stage, till that stage, they are still reading Vedas, Upanishads, Aranyakas, Shrutis. And then after getting so much knowledge, they become tired of knowledge, because knowledge is never ending. The nature of material and spiritual knowledge is that it is never ending. So they can't find peace, because knowledge always results in more knowledge and there is no end to it. So they can't find peace, they can't find fulfillment, they can't find this happiness. So then they try to find out, okay, who is that ultimate source of all knowledge? When they ask this question, who is that ultimate source of knowledge, that's when they come to the higher levels of knowledge, which is Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. That's when they feel the need for Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is how Vedas are progressing you through unknowingly. If you are coming across a Veda, automatically they're progressing you like this. So Īśopaniṣad is basically in this level of jnana. And it is establishing, it will take you through to Bhakti, it will take you to Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So Īśopaniṣad comes in this place. And so far clear? Any questions? The Vedas, we can't understand Vedas ourselves, because we can only understand by pratyaksha and anuman, by direct experience. Seeing is believing, and by speculation or extrapolations. Yes, Sachikumane, my Prabhu.
I'm just running through. It's not a verse. It's not a verse that I'm familiar that I know completely, but I think Krishna says Trigunya Vishaya Veda. That the Vedas deal mostly with the three modes of material nature.
Yeah.
But I don't remember hearing that it's suggesting like what beyond that, once like, which in your diagram here, it's like that's all part of that, but then you want to go into philosophy, or maybe it is and I didn't that Krishna's inviting Arjuna to go on this path of philosophy beyond the Vedas.
Yes, so Krishna says that Traigunya Vishaya Veda, that yes, that Vedas are explaining mainly about three modes of material nature, because someone who wants to live inside three modes and enjoy the three modes, then they will read three modes. But the Vedas, there are portions of Vedas, like majority of the Vedas. So Vedas will explain about different yagyas. But you know, when you do a yagya, fire sacrifice, if you attain something, then there is now in one age the fire, it is called fire yagya is fire sacrifice. In another age the sacrifice is different, deity worship. Another age the sacrifice is the mantras. Another age the sacrifice is sankirtan. So the actual activity could differ, but essentially the goal of the yagna is yagna purusha. So the Vedas have mentioned the word Vishnu unlimitedly, because they have to mention that, okay, this yagya you're doing to fulfill your needs, it's actually you're offering to yagna purusha. So there people know, okay, you know this, okay, I got my stuff, let me just go on to my next stuff, you know, like next gig and gig and gig. Then they say, okay, yeah, every time I come and do this gig, this my existing gig, I keep hearing about this word Vishnu, and he seems to be the yagna purusha. Okay, let me gain some more knowledge. So it's like, so even in Īśopaniṣad, the word Krishna is not mentioned. You know, everything about God is mentioned, which we'll discuss now in the invocation, but the word Krishna itself is not mentioned. No direct exposition on the Supreme Lord, because it's for the reader who has gone from, he's coming from many lifetimes after reading many Vedas, as now, you know, is now seeking something higher and something deeper. And so therefore this is where books like Īśopaniṣad and few more Upanishads, like there is one Upanishad which explicitly mentions about Krishna, like as in Gopal. I forgot the name of the Upanishad, something Gopal Upanishad, some Upanishad. So there are Upanishads which are completely detailing about, but you know, you have to be in sattva to be able to directly take to those Upanishads. And but not everyone will be in sattva. So therefore, you know, there is this progression happening, and unknowingly we are progressing, even though we may not accept Bhagavad Gita at this point in time, but we are reading some amazing Veda, or we are reading some amazing Upanishad. You know, we can only see that the soul is progressing, but it takes long time, you know, because as you said, it speaks about three modes and it doesn't let you come out of it easily till you are really frustrated.
So we could we say, Prabhu, that in that verse Krishna's encouraging Arjuna to become a little philosophical, if we compare it to your diagram here, the need for philosophy.
Yeah, need for philosophy. Yeah, go higher, then rise above the three modes. There is one more verse which Krishna explicitly says that, you know, rise above the three modes. Forgot the verse, but he wants to take Arjuna a little bit deeper. And then by the time 18th chapter comes, he is given bhakti to him already. And then, but you know, bhakti is then detailed in Srimad Bhagavatam. So there is this progression of the Vedas, and Īśopaniṣad is at this level. And now we are studying invocation. This invocation that we are reading doesn't actually is not actually part of Īśopaniṣad. It's a part of many Upanishads. The invocation mantra of Īśopaniṣad book, this invocation is not just part of Īśopaniṣad as a book, it's just an invocation of many of the Vedic literatures. It's a very common invocation. And so Prabhupada has used that as an invocation for Īśopaniṣad very properly, you know, perfectly. So let's just do the invocation. Do you still see my screen? What do you see in my screen?
It looks like the book cover, Prabhu, the Veda base.
Veda base. Okay, perfect. So I'm trying to find Om Purnamida Purnam. No, this. Oh, I can't see your Om Purna. Okay, here you go. This is the invocation. Let's see if I can increase the size. Okay, so we'll read this. Om Purnam Ada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Shishyate. Om, the complete whole. Purnam, perfectly complete. Adha, that. This word adha we'll discuss in detail. Purnam, perfectly complete. Idam, this phenomenal world. Purnat, from the all perfect. Purnam, complete unit. Udachyate is produced. Purnasya, of the complete whole. Purnam, completely. All, completely all. Adaya, having been taken away. Purnam, the complete balance. Eva, even. Avashishyate is remaining. Translation is Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The personality of Godhead is complete, perfect and complete, and because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself. Because he is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. And then Prabhupada goes and discusses about verse. So we'll quickly go back to a slide. So here, what we are discussing here is that Supreme Personality of God is the complete absolute truth. There he is like the complete, he is the perfection. Now, we can understand this in many sense, but the specific angle I'm going to take is that there are many religions, they accept that the Supreme Lord is complete, but then they impose their own understandings on the Supreme Lord. So the problem then comes that if someone imposes their own understanding on the Supreme Lord, then the Supreme Lord is forced to be that thing. And by definition of completeness, by definition of God, if someone is God and if someone is complete, then no definitions of God there can be no definition of God, because all definitions will be either incomplete or each of them should be fully complete. Say for example, God cannot come on the planet Earth is a theology of one specific religion. Hang on, what do you mean God cannot come on Earth? Because they say that, oh, the Earth is really dirty place. Okay, maybe it's a dirty place for you, but I think it's a beautiful place and it's a complete place. I also think it's a complete place. But you think it's a dirty place, so God cannot come in dirty places. Maybe it's not a dirty place, maybe it's a beautiful place, but if you force God to not come on Earth, then you are God, because you are the one who can force God. So if God has to continue to remain God, which means completely independent and self-decisive, then God can choose where to go and God can choose where not to go. God cannot fit one person's definition. So therefore, this Supreme Personality of God, it is complete absolute truth. Then the second important point he mentioned is the material world is complete. And people have a lot of problems with this. Material world is complete. What do you mean material world is complete? Those people who are believers in God, they also say that sometimes the material world is not complete, because they say, oh, there is so much suffering. And sometimes they give examples that no, everything is complete. We need water to drink, so water exists. and we need to have we have a sexual desire, so we have opposite sexes, and automatically things are happening. And there we want food, so food exists in the nature, the earth gives us food, so all the needs are existing, so the world is complete. At the same time, there are atheistic class of people who say, oh, it's incomplete. Why they say it's incomplete is because what happens is they say, okay, rain is falling on agricultural field, and there are food and food grains produced. But they say, but rain is also falling on oceans. What's the need of the so much water to be wasted? So they are looking from the perspective of wastage, that oceans don't need water, oceans already have water, so there is no need. So they are thinking that, okay, that the material world is actually not complete. So now my question to you all is material world complete, or is material world not complete? Yes, Sachikumari, my Prabhu.
I don't know the answer, but I'm just curious. Could it be simultaneously, inconceivably simultaneously, complete and incomplete?
That's not
Or is it
true.
as a cop out?
No, that but just to clarify, that's not a true statement. It is not simultaneously complete and incomplete. The Īśopaniṣad, the invocation mantra says Om Purnam Idam Purnam. So the material world is complete. The Īśopaniṣad say material world is complete. But here I've given you two arguments, both of which have full logic. Now you have to tell me which logic do you agree. And whichever logic you agree, you have to provide counter statements to give arguments for that.
So we can't say both.
You can't. You got caught in this case. Yes,
Okay.
Brandon Prabhu, Shishali Mataji.
Hare Krishna. I was just thinking in response to what you were saying about the atheistic class of people saying that, what about the clouds pouring water on the oceans? I was thinking that abundance isn't necessarily an indication of incompleteness. Just because there's an abundance and there's an overflowing, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's incomplete. I think even like it's like one of those really poorly thought out arguments that if you sit them down and say, but actually let's think about it. If everything did happen by chance, it was chaotic and incomplete, how is this process of if we just focus on the cloud, how is that possible? That's going to happen. Like this evaporation comes up, and then suddenly there's these big clouds which have immense amount of weight, but they can float effortlessly, and then water across the whole world, which then gets filtered down and makes pure drinking water. Then that streams goes back into the ocean, and it's preserved by the salt in the water, which makes it fresh when it gets. It's like, how it's a bit insane for me.
So that's very beautiful statement you have made. Abundance is not necessarily a precursor for lack, or you can't say that there is no completeness just because there is abundance. But people, to be very precise, the atheistic class of people use exactly the same logic that you have given just now. How does the water evaporate, becomes a cloud, and then forms as streams, and then it goes back into the ocean? They call this whole thing as automation. So they call this process as automatic, and they give example of say for example a toy car. You have those automatic toy cars, right? They are made once, and then they can just function on their own. Tesla, for example, the full self-driving version of Tesla will be fully self-automated. So now they say that there is automation that exists, and because of the automation, the things are working. So how do you counter that? You actually gave a very beautiful punchline, which was really nice. I just want you to go a step deeper along the lines of the same punchline.
Sorry, I confused it. went out. Sorry, I missed that. What was that?
No, I was saying that the atheist people use your example to say, coin the word called automation, that there are automatic processes which happen. They are just automatic, you know. So you gave a punchline that abundance is not, I forgot it. Abundance cannot justify incompleteness or something like that. So if you think a little bit deeper, a level deeper along the same lines, you will be able to come an answer which theists give back to the atheists for the same automation reasoning. And in the meantime, you think we'll go on to Xander Prabhu, Lisa Mataji, and others, Anishwar Prabhu. So is the world complete, material world complete, or is it incomplete?
It was complete.
Complete. Okay, now please justify why it is complete.
As you said that the first statement of Īśopaniṣad, that the full is full, and it always full, and if you that remove anything, it's still full. If you add something, it's still full. So
yes, but that is a statement. I also give you examples which atheists put, right? That the rain is falling, and rain is falling on earth, and then it produces food grains. So thieves say, oh, look, I need food to eat, and rain is giving me food. I need water to drink. I get that. Then we have other desires that we need, and they get fulfilled by the opposite genders. So why is there opposite gender? And theists give an answer. The reason there is opposite gender is because the world is, we have to have progeny, and therefore there are opposite genders. And but the atheists will give exactly opposite answer to the same thing. When we say these arguments to atheists say, okay, rain is falling on the ground and food grains, but rain is also falling on the oceans, and ocean is more vast than the land. So why is so much water getting wasted? And then they say that, okay, the humans are born, there is a need for the body, and so there is opposite gender exists, but this whole process is also called automation. The man and woman will come together, produce a child, and then when the child grows up, then they will find opposite gender, they will also produce. This is a cycle of existence. It's an automation cycle. So they give this argument. And so what I'm saying is, I'm wanting you all to think a little bit deeper and think through that how are you going to stand by the statement of Īśopaniṣad that from complete whole comes complete whole, because otherwise the atheists have won. Yeah. Okay. Yes, Brandon.
I mean, I would probably say that, the automation thing, that is proof that it is functioning. Everything is functioning according to a set of it's so complete that it has an automated functioning system. So, it's not just, I mean, that's the rain example is just one example, but the fact that there's enough, technically speaking, without greed, there's enough food for everyone. Every living entity is being sustained in their own way. Our understanding of, at least our modern understanding of extinctions of species is probably mainly due to human cause and misuse of. So like each living entity is being sustained. That like how Prabhupada says with the bird, that the bird doesn't. Who's feeding the bird? Who's giving it? There's a completeness in that.
Yeah. No, you're very close to an answer. Yes, there is a completeness. All the things, but it's still not convincing. To like there is no tathya or substance, that one substance which is missing. When you add, the chemical reaction will be explosive and complete. It will be ready to be put back to the atheists. Yes, Saji Kumar Nimai Prabhu.
I'm thinking of the example Srila Prabhupada would talk about Dr. Frog, and then the frog would ask, "Oh yeah, it's very big, that ocean. Is it 2 times as big as my well? Is it 3 times?" And then Prabhupada, I think, essentially is just exposing that because of a small fund of knowledge, they can't understand the scope and scale of the completeness.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, definitely there is this situation that we can say that, you are a frog in the well to the atheists, and they will say, yeah, you guys are not frog, you guys are the best, right? And just as we will make fun of them, they will make fun of us. So there is no end to that game. Prabhu, just give me 1 second. मैं कॉल के बीच में हूँ अलीशा, मैं सेशन के बीच में हूँ. हाँ, घर पे पहुंच गई है. नहीं, 3 बजे नहीं, मेरा 3 बजे दूसरा सेशन है. तो मैं, तुम लोग रेडी रहो, मैं जैसे ही ये खत्म होगा तुरंत मैं आ जाऊंगा, मैं तुमको फोन करूंगा. 2 बजे तक, हाँ 2 बजे तक रेडी रहना. 2 बजे नहीं, 1:30 तक रेडी रहना, 1:30 तक. ओके 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 ओके. Sorry, my wife had to go back to Manor to pick her up. Yeah, so any thoughts in the meantime? Lisa Mataji, you have anything to say?
No, I'm sorry, Prabhu. I stepped away, so I've missed part of the conversation.
You missed the conversation.
Yeah.
I want you to think through. So let me tell you the tell you about the conversation. Krishna at the very beginning of the verse says Om Purnam Idam Purnam, that from the complete whole, which is the supreme absolute truth, everything complete comes, and this material world is complete. So then there is this statement that everything, this material world has come from Supreme Lord. So it must be complete, because from a complete, everything complete comes. So here is the two classes of men, theists and atheists. And theists say that no, this material world is complete because for every need, there is a fulfillment. Like if I'm thirsty, water is given. For food, rains are falling and food grains are growing. There is a human need to produce children, to have, to engage in sense gratification. So there are opposite sexes produced, so like that, every need has a fulfillment in the nature. But then the same argument is used by atheists, and they say, okay, rains are falling, but rains are also falling on ocean, and so much water is wasted. And then, there is natural automation in the nature, and it's not God or it's not something, it's called automation. That children, husband, wife come together, produce the children grow up, they find the opposite gender, they produce children, and then there is this cycle perpetuates. So then what we are discussing is, the question to you is, do you believe what Krishna has said, or actually what Upanishads are saying, that from complete whole, always a complete whole comes out? Or do you don't believe in that? If you believe from complete whole comes out, then this material world is also coming from the complete whole. So then the logic says that the material world is also complete, it's whole. But if the material world is complete, then you have to tell me and prove to me, you have to defeat atheists with their statements that water is also falling on the ocean. And Brandon Prabhu came very close. He gave an answer. He says that abundance is not a blocker for completeness. If you have something in abundance, so if water is in abundance, if it's falling in oceans, that's not a problem for something to be complete or incomplete. So what do you think? Is material world complete, or is material world incomplete?
It's complete for its purpose.
Sorry, come again. We lost you, Lisa Mataji. Okay, we lost her. Anyone else in the session? Because I can't see all of your images. I can only see 4 people at a time.
Sorry, could you hear me, Prabhu?
Yes, I can hear you now, Lisa.
Yeah,
Yes.
sorry. Yes, material world is complete for its purpose, which is temporary existence.
Okay.
But for eternal life, no, it's not.
It's not.
Yeah.
Okay. Very beautiful answer. Okay, I want to come back to your answer in a moment, but here we have Xander Prabhu, Rima, Anna, and Kush. What do you guys think? Is the material world complete or incomplete? And you have to stand by a statement with some proofs.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Kush Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Happy New Year. Yeah, no doubt, the material world does operate under like perfect laws of nature. Like Brandon Prabhu was saying, like the sun can rise and it sets without fail every day, provides energy, light, and heat. And Krishna, I think, says in chapter 9, that the material nature is working under his direction. But at the same time, I think the material world is both complete and incomplete, because it's complete because Krishna designed it perfectly to fulfill our material needs and serve as a place for spiritual growth.
Right.
However, it's incomplete because it's temporary and it can't provide the soul with eternal happiness, which is only found in the spiritual world.
Right. So basically, from complete whole, something incomplete has come.
Yeah.
Then that is not according to the invocation mantra, right? Invocation mantra said from complete whole, always a complete whole comes out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe when we read on, maybe it'll make more
But
sense.
your answer was to a great extent, you said it right, but you were presenting the philosophy that you have heard, complete. Yeah. Yes, Xander Prabhu, you had something.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yeah, I was just going to pick up on that a little bit, and maybe you can consider that this creation is complete, even if one considers it to be imperfect and incomplete. It provides the facility for us as jivas to seek and to reconnect with our completeness, to understand that we still have the facility to do so. So you could still therefore consider it to be complete, because in this material world, which is temporary and which is imperfect, we still have the opportunity to attain perfection. That possibility is still there, so you can still consider it to be complete.
Yes, wonderful. Okay, so should I say that I'm almost 60-70% satisfied with 3 answers so far. Xander Prabhu, Lisa Mataji, and Brandon Prabhu. Now we have left Rima Mataji. Can you please unmute and tell us what you think? Hare Krishna, Rima Mataji, you here?
It's complete because it comes from Krishna, and Krishna is complete.
Yes, prove that. If it's complete, why is there suffering in the material world? Okay. You can think, and yes, someone raised hand. One second, because I can only see 4. Yes, Brandon Prabhu.
Krishna, two things came to mind.
Yes.
I'm struggling with the automation thing as a hard argument but what was coming to mind is it's like with gardens, like when a human being tries to manipulate their garden, it needs constant maintenance. But if you leave a forest or a place that was a garden, it will self-regulate, and it will naturally go to a point of a forest, and it will keep sustaining itself. It's a cyclical. And then if someone says, oh, but that's automation, but then who created the automation? Where's the source of that? And with the purpose of the material world, it's like, from my humble understanding, it's like the material and spiritual energy are both spiritual, but they have different functions. It's perfect for its function. It's like we come here, and even when we have really disgusting desire, like really horrific, like murder and desires, like Krishna will fulfill that, and we'll be able to enact that. But it doesn't mean, but it's also a place of reform. So the suffering has a purpose as well. But when we are in the situation that I'm in the center of the universe, things should go according to my will, then we really struggle, because we can't and we're trying to understand something which is spiritual on the material platform. So it can seem like there's an incompleteness here, but for it's the actual purpose of it, it's complete. It's just like if you had a laptop and it was perfect to do this Zoom call and to do your work on, but you were really hungry and you're like, this laptop's incomplete because I can't eat it. But that's not its purpose. Its purpose isn't for you to eat it. Its purpose is for you to use it in this.
Correct. Wonderful. Beautiful answer. So I think I want to comment on your answer, but I have one person left, which is Anna Mataji. What are your thoughts? You're here, Mataji? You're on mute. Okay, I think Anna Mataji has left.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Can I just say one more thing as well?
Yes.
Which is
Yes,
on this kind of, on this automation point.
Yes, yes,
Because
please.
there are, you know, like Brandon was saying as well, yeah, there are things that happen seemingly mechanically, like the sun rising and sun setting, and all these things that happen so perfectly and seem automated, and that perfection suggestive of something more, or some greater controller. But you can think about, because you use the example of sense gratification and relationships, and the opposite gender appears to satisfy that. Right? But that still doesn't account for more subtle things like love, because you can still, you know, your partner can be dead, and yet still you'll visit their grave every year. You'll still have love and things like this. So you can perhaps argue in that line that there's something more than just the automated aspect at play. You know?
Yeah, no, very beautiful thought. It's a very beautiful thought. Yes, definitely. So now I am like completely satisfied with the answers I have received so far, barring Anna Mataji, which I couldn't hear. But you know, complete satisfaction.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Anna Mataji. Yes.
I nothing to it. It's very deep question. Sorry, I don't know.
You understood the question?
Yes, of course.
Okay, and you have like absolutely no thoughts?
No, I believe that the vote is complete, but how to prove it, I have no idea.
Okay. We'll discuss it now. Now, thank you so much. I think I completely agree with I think first answer was given by Lisa Mataji, purpose, and that was further, you know, exposition was from Brandon Prabhu and Xander Prabhu was yes, purpose, but then also the argument of automation. You know, the forest sustains itself. Now, one punchline which you mentioned, Brandon Prabhu, was abundance is not a blocker for completeness or incompleteness. Similarly, something which is on automation does not mean that there has been no person to initiate that automation. So when people say that, oh, this is a nature cycle, but then as Brandon Prabhu was alluding, but who created that automation? Who created that nature in the first instance? And if you think deeply, then you can always challenge atheists by just asking them about the purpose. They will say, oh, there is suffering, so this is not a perfect world. But actually, hang on, what was the purpose of this material world? What was the actual purpose? An example which Brandon Prabhu gave was computer. I use the same example is if you take a phone and if you want to write a book, like you want to publish a book and you want to start writing in a book, you will not use your phone to write a book, you know, like you can write few text messages in your phone, but if you have to write like a whole book by typing it out on phone, that's not the best place to, because the purpose of the phone was to actually communicate by talking and send small text messages. But if you want to write a book, you will take a laptop, and inside a laptop, you will have now facilities to peacefully do the whole book. So similarly, this material world was designed for two purposes. And those two purposes is one is that you have a feeling of perpetuation. So all your needs are fulfilled. Just like someone is in a jail, they get medicine, they get food, they get to sleep, they get, you know, their duvets, whatever their small needs are, they are fulfilled. But at the same time, the jail is still a jail. You know, there is a suffering inside the jail, right? People are suffering. So similarly, the material world, the purpose of the material world is to punish the people who are wanting to reject the spiritual existence, and they want to just enjoy the material nature. That's one of the purposes. The second purpose is reformation. Like in a hospital. In a hospital, also we have the facilities, right? We have the bed, someone comes and gives us the food, whatever we need is provided. But hospital is there to actually recuperate or become rectified of the diseases, right? So similarly, this material world is also a hospital where we have an opportunity to get rid of the diseases we have. So in essence, the purpose of this material world defines whether this material world is complete or incomplete. So absence, so a material world therefore has got some suffering, and the material world therefore also has got some fulfillments. And that's why it is designed. Fulfillment plus some suffering. Anyone who doesn't have that understanding of purpose, then for them, this material world is not complete. But for Krishna, this material world is complete. And as I think many devotees mentioned, that this is a temporary, Mataji was mentioning, the purpose is not the purpose. If the purpose is to be spiritual, then this material world is not complete. But if the purpose is to be material, then this material world is possibly complete. But actually, this material world is always complete under all circumstances. Complete and temporariness are two different things. The problem is we try to not understand the words in their own merit. Yes, material world is temporary. It gets destroyed and then it gets recreated. But that doesn't mean that it is not complete. Completeness can exist in temporariness and also exist after temporariness situation, which is an example Xander Prabhu was giving. That there is body is temporary, but you still love the person who is just lying dead in front of you. And even after they're buried, you'll still continue to love the person. So that is eternity. So in that sense, the material world is complete. So beautiful answers. Actually, I didn't need so much explanation in this question. You all yourself came to this very beautiful explanation. So the importance is of the purpose, and importance is to understand that there is subsistence, which means there is fulfillment of all the needs to subsist ourselves. But at the same time, there is also suffering. Subsistence and suffering, they can be together. Just as inside the jail, to actually punish the people, but also inside like a hospital to actually do the reformation. Okay, so that is the second point. Material world is complete, and from complete, always a complete comes. And this is how you can respond to atheists who will have their unlimited arguments also on this topic. Then second is human form offers complete facility. So, this human body is a complete facility. Now, how many of you have heard the word human rights? Who can tell me what is human rights? What, according to you, is human rights? Yes, Sachikumar Namabu.
I'm just thinking that historically, I'm not an expert on that, but at some point, women didn't have the right to vote, for instance, or slaves didn't have the right to determine their own destiny, and so that was considered inappropriate. And that we should say that no, everybody has a birthright. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for that. Yes, beautiful answer. What, any other answers? What are human rights?
Isn't it the right to exist without persecution?
That is definitely one of the fundamental roots of human rights, the right to exist without persecution, or on a more basic level. Because these are completely perfect answers that both of you have given, and this is the basis, like the foundations of human rights in the modern day as we understand it. But human rights by definition also means something a little bit more. No? Okay. Right to food, right to life. Yeah, right to existence, which encumbers persecution, to prevent someone getting persecuted. But basically, if you just study the basic rights, human rights, then they are like right to hear, right to life, right to food, right to water, right to resources, the basic resources. And then there are further rights, which is right, right to be protected against persecution, right to be, have a ability to decide your own destiny. But if you take like maximum number of these rights, not saying that they are not needed, they're definitely needed for human life. But if you compare them with animals, these rights that human rights have, then most of the rights matches with the animal rights. So then what is human right?
The right to inquire.
Right to inquire. Yes, I'm looking for a specific word. Wonderful.
Spiritually.
Right to inquire spiritually. Right to religious practice. This is very beautiful, one of the human rights. But basically, right to enlightenment. Right to enlightenment is it should be, if it is not, it should be one of the human rights, is right to enlightenment, because that is what separates us from animals, is enlightenment. Animals are not enlightened beings, generally speaking, unless they are a very special animal. But generally, enlightenment concept doesn't exist in animals. It exists in human beings. So right to enlightenment is one of the fundamental of all other human rights are needed, important, very much needed in the human society. But along with that, we need right to enlightenment also. So therefore, human form has got this facility of enlightenment, and therefore human form is actually the complete facility, because we have this facility within the human body. Similarly, then important point is sense gratification is illusory completeness. This is what Īśopaniṣad is explaining, is you can try to gratify the senses, but you will never be fully satisfied. Again, the example may be a little bit gross, but I have to use it. Like we have, I've earlier mentioned that, there is a human need to have unification. So therefore, we end up having children, and then children, when they grow up, then they also find their gender, opposite genders, and they also unite, and it's a perpetual cycle. So, but the problem is that, two incomplete wholes cannot create a complete, two incomplete beings cannot create a complete person. So essentially, when the two beings come together for sense gratification, then outcome of that sense gratification cannot be complete. It perpetuates the cycle of same sense gratification. So, the cycle of incompleteness through sense gratification perpetuates. So sense gratification by no means, it's complete. I was giving this example of, if you eat a very sweet gulab jamun, then, you can't taste any other sweetness, like less sweet, you won't be you will be numb to the lower levels of sweetness. So this is one such problem. And then Īśopaniṣad mentions that devotional surface, is the real completeness. That is the real completeness. Without, now how do we actually know that the devotional service is real completeness? An example again I'll give of prasad or food is when when you are in lower stages of existence, when someone's cooking prasad, say for example they are making gulab jamun, just giving an example, sweet balls, right? So when they are making gulab jamuns, if someone's a very good cook, then they know the science of cooking. And the science of cooking says that before actually cooking something, as the thing is getting cooked, someone who has not seen the item getting cooked, they first get a fragrance of what is being cooked. So that's the first hook or the first attraction. So now they have not seen God, they have not seen gulab jamun, they have not seen what shape it is, they don't know what it is, but they are just hearing a fragrance, and fragrance is so nice that they're getting attracted. This is like at the Brahman level, where you're just getting fragrance and you're thinking the fragrance is amazing and this is all in all, and I want to be in this fragrance. That's it. And fragrance is everywhere expanding. So that is, at the lower level of existence. Then the higher level of existence is, okay, you come near to the gulab jamun and you see the gulab jamuns are like nice big brown balls, and if it's a kala jamun, then it's a nice dark black ball, which is even more delicious than the brown balls. So then you can see the form, round forms and rectangular forms. So when you see the form, now you can have more deeper understanding of the fragrance that you are getting. You can now see the form. Yes, Sachikumar Prabhu.
Sorry, Prabhu. I'm just thinking. I'm thinking. Oh, I wonder. Do I know where this conversation, where we're going, where you're going with this? And I'm wondering, because we spoke about a hierarchy before, is there a hierarchy of senses, like gross to subtle or subtle to gross? I don't know.
Yes, well, gross to subtle, and then subtle to like realization. So, so then, you know, after you have seen the form of gulab jamun, then eventually, still you actually don't know gulab jamun. You are only getting this amazing fragrance. So you have a realization of gulab jamun now in two levels. One is the fragrance. The second one is of the form. So the yogis who are doing Paramatma level of realization, they've seen the form of the Supreme Lord. Or they believe that, you know, the Supreme Lord exists in me and exists in everyone else and exists in ant and elephants. But the third level, which is Bhagwan, which is only known when you actually taste gulab jamun. When you take gulab jamun, which is fragrant and nice form, and you eat it, then you actually have the full realization of what a gulab jamun is, or, you know, what the Bhagwan is. And at that stage, when you are actually tasting Bhagwan, that can only happen through devotional service. And that level of realization is complete realization. Can you call fragrance as complete realization? No. Can you call sight and fragrance as complete realization? No. Can you call eating of the gulab jamun as complete realization? Yes, because all three are included: Sat, Chit, and Ananda. The seeker is after Ananda also. Initially, they are only getting Sat, which is eternity, at the level of Brahman. But you know, if you are just eternal and doing no activity, you will be bored. And so from there you go higher to Chit, which is eternity, then full knowledge. You want full knowledge. And after having full knowledge, what do you do of this knowledge? You know, you have to take the knowledge, apply the knowledge, and do something for the Supreme Lord. Then you get Ananda. So as soon as you eat gulab jamun, you get this Ananda. As soon as you come to the realization of Bhagwan feature of the Lord, then you have this relationship. Then you have an opportunity to do devotional service. And then there is Ananda. So this is kind of an example through Prasadam of how actually Ananda feature of the Lord, which can only be realized through Bhagwan feature of the Lord, which is the ultimate realization. Other levels of realization are not complete. And after you have this ultimate realization, you will taste Ananda by eating. You know, activity of eating is compared to like devotional service. You're doing some service to the Supreme Lord. And that gives you completeness. That gives you Ananda. So sense gratification is illusory completeness, and devotional service is real completeness. Take the same example of gulab jamun for sense gratificationary completeness. You know, after, if you are in the material world, if you eat 10 gulab jamuns, then I come to you as your best friend and tell you, please take 10 more. And now you can't take 10 next more. Then I come back to you as your bestest friend and give you 10 further gulab jamuns. Then I become your enemy. That you can't find anyone like me, because you can't take so much of gulab jamun because you are limited. The sense gratification here is temporary and limited. So therefore sense gratification is illusory and devotional service is real completeness. So these are the key aspects of this overview of this invocation, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is complete and he is absolute truth. So some people, they want to understand. Yes, Sachikumar Nimai Prabhu.
Sorry, Prabhu. I just because I was having a conversation with Tripad Prabhu at the reception the other day, and I couldn't believe it. But he was telling me, you know, I've heard that in devotee communities before there were sometimes gulab jamun eating competitions, and I think Tripad said somebody actually left their body because they had, and I just I know he said Tripad, but have you ever heard that?
No, I haven't heard that, but yeah, I can imagine they might, because too much high sugar basically fails all your organs, high blood.
Yeah. I mean, I thought, okay, that's like some fun, like gulab jamun eating competition, but to the extent of leaving the body, I thought that was a little
crazy.
extreme, extreme sport,
Okay, extreme sport, yes. Just
Sorry, Prabhu.
no, that's a thank you for sharing that. Just coming back to this point of Supreme Personality of Godhead is complete absolute truth. And this Buddhists, they like to use this word quite often, and we can use the same example and actually give them an explanation of the form of the Lord. So how many of you have heard the word infinity? Infinite, yeah, like everyone has heard infinite. So now if you take all even numbers, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, how much such even numbers exist?
That's infinite, isn't it?
That's infinite. Wonderful. Thank you, Lisa Mazadi. If you take odd numbers, how much such odd numbers exist?
That's also infinite.
Also infinite. Sachikumar Prabhu, you raised your hand.
No, maybe I should let you finish because we did in a previous session we did have a conversation about infinity. I think I got a little stuck on infinity plus one.
Yes.
But in the course of my looking into that and trying to be right about that and consulting with Wikipedia, what I came across was that infinity is not a number, or let's say it is a number, but it's also a concept. So that's why the concept and the number, there might be a little discrepancy there. So
yeah. Yeah, generally when you refer to infinity, it generally means unlimited. That's a concept. And the concept, when I say infinity plus one, what I mean is unlimited plus one. How much is that? Unlimited. Because what does one mean in front of unlimited? One has a finite value. And that one, if that one doesn't have a finite value, then it will no longer be one. Two has a finite value, and therefore it is called two. That two might be big and humongous and great and everything, but still it is finite. Therefore it is one, and therefore it is two. But then that one, two, you add that inside in front of unlimited or infinity, then that one, two becomes unlimited because it has now been added to the unlimited. So similarly, with the prime numbers, with the even numbers and odd numbers, they are unlimited in nature, right? But here you also have all natural numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, not just odd numbers, not just even number, but all natural numbers. How many such natural numbers exist? Unlimited, infinite, right? So the point is that even in the material math, you have infinite odd numbers, infinite even numbers. But if you take all natural numbers, which includes even numbers and odd numbers, so there can be, from infinite natural numbers comes infinite even numbers and infinite odd numbers, right? So from infinite comes many infinites. So if someone tries to say or think that, Supreme Lord, because for a lot of religions, this is the problem. If you take something out from something, then they think, it's reduced in size. There is something less. But here we just gave a simple example of math to actually understand that even from Supreme Lord, who is infinite, there can be many infinites which can come. And everything is perfect and everything is complete. Okay, with that, I'll stop my session. And if we have any questions, we have 15 minutes. Or any corrections or any thoughts. Yes, Sachikumar Prabhu.
So I think the thing that is there for me, like the experience, like having gone through the session thus far, and then looking, and then I'm kind of left at a point where what to do with that. What to do with it's like, okay, it's whole, perfect, and complete, like, so what kind of thing, I don't, and I'm just wondering if if the Īśopaniṣad is going to point us to what to do about the fact that it's complete, or if it's kind of okay for us just to be in the inquiry about the completeness. Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Okay, very good question. Thank you so much for asking that. Only good questions can help someone go deeper in the topic. So yes, so Īśopaniṣad is basically trying to take you into this definition and understanding of God, where God is like Brahman, like complete. And with this is an invocation which is used for many Upanishads, not just Īśopaniṣad. But before starting the Īśopaniṣad, there is this mental conception which a student has to come to, which is that, okay, we are about to start reading about that Supreme in few verses, and that the nature of that Supreme is that it is complete and it is perfect, and therefore the knowledge that is coming from that Supreme, which is Īśopaniṣad, is also perfect and it's also complete, and it's going to take us through the journey of Brahman, level of realization, towards the personal level of realization. And in next few verses of Īśopaniṣad, it will take you deeper along the lines of discussing the Isha, or the controller. When you go through the verses, it will discuss more about the controlling aspects of how the ultimate. So if ultimate is complete and only complete comes, then the complete should be the complete controller, or should be the complete of everything, like complete proprietor, complete. So those aspects of completeness is described, but there is a sense of awe and there is a sense of amazement that a student will cultivate when they are going through these sections. Because if you directly go Bhagavad Gita, then we just tell everyone, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then Krishna explains Bhagavad Gita, which is amazing. But actually, Krishna only in 8, 9, 10, I think 9th, 10th chapter onwards, when Arjun is really pushing Krishna, to know him, and tells him that only you can tell me, Krishna, about yourself, because you are unlimited, and to know unlimited by a limited person like me, it's impossible. So I'm grateful you're telling me about yourself. And then Krishna goes that amongst the fishes, I'm shark. Amongst the jungle animals, I'm the lion. And Krishna is saying, I'm just telling you like fragmental manifestations of mine, like, splendorous manifestations of mine. So only until those chapters, you can get some real knowledge of what God is, or how expansive the God is, how there is this feeling of awe and reverence about the God that you cannot immediately get through Bhagavad Gita, because Bhagavad Gita begins in friendly note. But that same feeling you can get by meditating on the verses of Īśopaniṣad. That amazing, expansive feeling. If you go, say, to the best of the oceans, like some, say, Lizard Point, one of the points here in Cornwall. From there, when you actually look at the vast ocean, then you will feel so amazingly purified, and you also feel a kind of awe. The big waves are coming and hitting the big rocks, and so you are amazed, you are purified, and you have respect developed out of it. So a reader will then go through this journey of seeing a value in the Vedic literature that they can actually value. The concept of having a value for something is not easy. You work like donkeys in McDonald's and Marks and Spencer's, and eventually you get some money, and then finally you realize what's the value of 10 pound. Before that you actually didn't realize 10, because always your parents used to give you your 10 and you used to spend that like you like as if you're not even spending. So now that you're making the money, you realize the value of every single pound, and therefore what actually happens when you go out before university and go out and work is not that you are collecting money. You are actually creating a value system of how to value things in life through hard work, through principles. So you're building those principles. If you started to cheat and make money earlier in life, you might become a big person, but immediately you might also lose that money, because you have not gone through this value generation curve which is actually needed for someone to hold such a big amount of money. Those people who are billionaires are not billionaires because they have made billions. They are billionaires because they have stayed billionaire. They continue to remain billionaire. And for someone to continue to remain, they have to have value with them. They have to understand the principles and they have to have some habits. So Īśopaniṣad is basically creating you this value system now, after which you could have much greatly, vastly appreciated Bhagavad Gita. And your appreciation of Srimad Bhagavatam would increase dramatically, because now you understand the concepts of completeness, the nature, and how the nature is complete, how the human facility is complete, and human facility is rare. And in this rarity, we have got this human facility, and we have got this full facility. You can get a facility which is very rare, but that facility could be only half baked. And then you are like, oh, yeah, this is no one has this, I have half of it. Then someone with full facility comes and say, yeah, you guys have no facility, but at least you have this much. But I have the full experience. I have the full facility. So when this person who has half facility, they will become envious of the person who has the full facility. But the way they will converse with themselves in their heart is, okay, it's okay. No one in the world has any facility. At least I have got half. I may not have the full, but at least I have got the half. This is how they console themselves. But not having half facility is not a precursor to the full spiritually. You have to have full facility. So human body is the full facility. But that all of this happens through contemplation, through reading the purports, through contemplating on the purports, and through discussing it in a forum like this. This is where Īśopaniṣad actually takes you. And the next set of verses are going to take you there, the value creation journey. Hare Krishna. Thank you for your question. Any more questions before we finish? Yes, Lisa Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, how many mantras will we study each week?
I actually have no answers because I'm not taking the course. It is Dayal Mura Prabhu who is going to take, so best he answers those questions.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. And Sachikumar Prabhu, yes.
I'm just my question is about being a student of Bhakti Sastri, and just more generally in the context of where we are, and I'm wondering, Sidhārī Prabhu is like up here, and what would be your, if you were to say, this is the key to elevating your performance in terms of, or elevating one's performance in terms of going from being a beginner student with very little understanding to being somebody like yourself with a good grasp of the Bhakti Sastri. What would you say would be some of the key things to consider in elevating one's performance as a student?
Oh, I don't consider myself as a good student, and Prabhupada definitely knows it. I do want to be a better student, hopefully for myself, for my own benefit. Only thing which I can say, and which Prabhupada mentions again repeatedly, is and which I in those standards which Prabhupada has put, I fall short of those standards. So I'm just accepting my limitations, and I'm praying mercy of all the assembled devotees here to please pray for me and bless me so that I can come up to the full standards. Prabhupada mentions three things are very important. One is systematic study and orderly study. So you go step by step and you go in a systematic fashion. That is the utmost critical thing, because when you go through something in a step by step systematic fashion, you are on this journey of value building. And what happens is there is revelation. So all these scriptures are revealed scriptures. Revealed scriptures means all the we have studied where Vedas, where Shrutis, Smritis. Shrutis are the ones which were directly spoken by the Lord in the heart of Brahma. So Vedas were directly revealed in the heart of Brahma. So all these Vedic literatures have to be revealed by the Acharya. So And the only way they will reveal this in your heart is when you systematically go through step by step, because that's what Prabhupada requested in the beginning of Bhagavatam and in all other books. You read my books regularly, daily, systematically. So that is something I did for a very, very long time, but sometimes in this Grihastha life, I have not been able to do on few occasions, and I want to do that more and more systematic and step-by-step study of the books. And second thing is consistency, is to always remain consistent, always remain consistent. My Guru Maharaj mentions that if you, one drop of water cannot do anything for the mountain, but if the same one drop is falling on the same mountain for 20 years, the mountain becomes like, sand. So the big mountain can be broken down with consistency, just one drop of water a day, no matter what, just remain consistent. Now I myself not super consistent, and it's one of my limitation, but I'm begging to all of you to pray to the Lord that I can become more consistent. But I think if any sincere student does a step-by-step study, systematic study, and consistent study, so those are the three things which process-wise one needs. And then Prabhupada also mentions inside Bhagavatam, discipline, obedience, and I forgot the third one. There are three things which Prabhupada mentions. And discipline, obedience, and one more thing. Those three things, they make you a good quality student. So there has to be a quality student, and then there has to be a quality process. When you have a quality student and you have a quality process, we already have got a highest quality teacher. So we are not lacking that, but we always lack this quality student and a quality process. Quality process is step-by-step, systematic, and consistent. And a quality student is disciplined, obedient, and there, I forgot the third one. I'll try and dig out. It's in my notes. Those are the things I could just rephrase what Prabhupada needs.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, it's great.
Okay, so we have no further questions. So thank you all. Again, I beg your forgiveness if I've said something wrong. Please forgive me. And if you have any questions, you can also post on the group. Hare Krishna, and please continue to enjoy your Bhakti Shastri course. Even Dayal Mohra Prabhu is the best of the teachers. And, I have known him from my early days in ISKCON London. And you will have fun. You will definitely have fun. My sessions were a little bit serious, but you will enjoy with him very much. Please continue to be attending all of the sessions. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Okay, I'm trying to finish the session.